Right before your old self dies, something powerful happens inside you. And most people don't even know what it is. They think they're falling apart, but they're actually breaking open. They think something is ending, but something far greater is trying to begin. If you're feeling that shift right now, I want you to stay with me, because this moment is not the end of anything. It's the birth of the new you. In this time we have together, I'm going to help you understand what really happens when you outgrow an old version of yourself. I'll show you why the signs feel so intense, why life seems to shift without warning, and why your inner world begins to shake right before you step into something new. You'll learn how to recognize these changes as guidance, not fear, and how to move through this stage with trust instead of worry. By the end of this, you'll know you're not breaking down, you're breaking free. I know what it feels like to be caught between who you used to be and who you're becoming. It's a strange place to stand. You feel pulled in two directions. You feel tired of old patterns, but not fully ready for the new ones. And you may even think something is wrong with you, but nothing is wrong. You're shedding an old layer of yourself, the same way a tree lets go of its leaves when a new season arrives. Most people never understand this stage, so they fight it. They cling to the old life because it feels familiar, even when it hurts. But once you know the signs, once you see what's truly happening inside you, you begin to trust the process. You begin to see the intelligence behind every shift. And you begin to realize that the part of you that's dying is the part that was holding you back. In this message, I'm going to walk you through the stages you pass through right before your old self dies. Some of these stages feel uncomfortable. Some feel confusing. And some feel like a deep pull towards something you can't quite name. We'll talk about the signs that appear in your emotions, your relationships, your thoughts, and even your daily habits. We'll look at why things fall apart right before they fall into place. And I'll share the spiritual shift that helped me step into a new life when the old one no longer fit. Stay with me until the end, because there is one sign most people miss entirely, a sign that shows up right before the deepest transformation of your life. And once you understand it, you'll see your own journey with completely new eyes. When you reach the edge of who you've been, there's always a moment when something inside you begins to break open. And what I want to share with you now is something most people overlook entirely. Because it doesn't show up in loud ways at first. And it doesn't feel like the beginning of a new life. It feels more like the slow unraveling of the old one. You start to sense this shift not in the outside world, but in the quiet corners of your inner world where you've been pretending for far too long that everything still fits. And yet, deep down, you know something is stretching inside you. Something is pushing against the walls you built out of old habits and old stories, and this pressure you feel isn't here to break you down, it's here to break you open. What I'm about to share might seem counterintuitive at first, because the very moment you start to grow is the same moment you begin to feel uncomfortable in the life you've been living. The routines you used to move through without thinking suddenly feel heavy, like you're carrying a version of yourself that you've outgrown. The roles you used to play so easily start to feel like costumes you can't wear anymore. Even the people around you notice something shifting, though they may not have the words for it. And you may find yourself waking up in the morning with a strange and powerful feeling, a soft whisper inside you saying, "This isn't my life anymore." Now, let's set the stakes here, because this part matters. When that feeling shows up, most people think something is wrong with them. They think they're breaking down. They think they're losing direction. But what's really happening is that the smallest and most sacred part of you is trying to grow beyond the limits of the person you used to be. This tension you feel between who you've been and who you're becoming isn't a crisis. It's the first breath of a rebirth. And if you don't understand that, you'll fight it, you'll push it away, and you'll try to force yourself back into the old shape. But the old shape can't hold you anymore. Here's what this actually is. This is the cracking of the old self, and every transformation begins here. A snake can't grow without shedding its skin, and if you've ever watched that process, it looks uncomfortable, even painful, but it's not death, it's renewal. The skin becomes too tight, the old layer begins to split, and the new life underneath pushes forward with a force that cannot be stopped. In the same way, you begin shedding behaviors that once made sense but now feel false. You start letting go of beliefs that once kept you safe but now keep you small. You feel a pressure you can't explain, a restlessness that won't go away, a longing for something you can't yet name. And this is the proof that the person you've been is loosening, making room for the person you're becoming. Let me give you an example from my own life. Long before I ever wrote a book or stood in front of an audience, I felt this quiet break inside me. I was still living as the man I thought I was supposed to be. I had the job, I had the identity, I had the rhythm of life that everyone around me assumed was right. But inside, something kept tugging at me, soft at first, almost easy to ignore. And then it became a kind of inner pressure, like a voice saying, "You're meant to grow beyond this." And even though I didn't know what that meant, I couldn't pretend I didn't hear it anymore. That moment, that inner cracking, was the beginning of everything that came after. It was the signal that the old me was too small for the life that was waiting. And you may be feeling something like that now. You may feel torn between two worlds, the one you've known and the one you haven't stepped into yet. You may feel restless in rooms that once felt comfortable. You may feel tired of conversations that used to entertain you. You may look at the life you built and sense that there's nothing wrong with it, and yet it's not right for you anymore. This is the mismatch between the self you show the world and the self that's rising inside you. But here's the truth I want you to hold on to. This inner break is the kindest message you'll ever receive from your soul. It's saying, you can't stay here. You're too big for this now. And while it may feel confusing and unfamiliar, this break is necessary. It's the signal that something new is trying to be born through you. And once this inner split becomes too loud to ignore, once the old self can't hold you anymore, life doesn't stay still. Life begins to move. Things begin shifting, falling away, changing shape, even if you don't feel ready. And that's where we're going next, into the collapse of the old structures, the part where life itself joins your transformation and carries you forward, even when your fear tries to hold you back. When that inner break becomes too real to hide from, something remarkable begins to unfold around you. And most people don't see it for what it is, because it rarely looks gentle or orderly or planned. In fact, what I'm about to tell you may at first seem unsettling, but once you understand it, it will become one of the most freeing truths of your life. Here it is. When your old self is dying, life begins to let go of everything that was built around that old self. Not in pieces, not slowly, but often all at once, as if the universe has decided that resisting your growth is no longer an option. And you look around and wonder why things are ending so abruptly. Why the relationships you thought would last forever start drifting. Why the habits that used to comfort you suddenly feel hollow. Why the plans you had for your future fall apart in your hands. Now, let's slow down here, because I want you to understand why this happens. When you're stepping into a new version of yourself, the foundations of your old life can no longer support the weight of who you're becoming. It's like a tree preparing for spring. Before new leaves can grow, the old ones must fall away. And at first it looks like the tree is dying, but that's not the truth. The truth is that the tree is making space. The truth is that the letting go is the beginning, not the end. And the same is happening to you. What looks like a collapse is actually a clearing, a sacred kind of renovation that removes what your new self cannot carry. Think about a time in your life when something ended without warning. A job that slipped away, a relationship that faded, a dream you chased for years that suddenly fell dead in your hands. When you look back, really look back, you'll notice that every one of those endings pushed you toward a new beginning you could never have reached otherwise. But in the moment, it's hard to see that. In the moment, all you see is loss, all you feel is confusion, all you want is stability, yet life is far more wise than our fear. Life knows what we're meant to outgrow long before we're ready to admit it. And when you refuse to let go, life steps in and does the letting go for you. I remember a time when a door closed for me so sharply, it almost felt like a personal attack. I had been building a life that made sense to the world, but not to my soul, and I kept trying to make that life fit because it was familiar. And then, without warning, the door slammed shut. I felt shaken, I felt uncertain, but with time I realized that door had to close for the truth of my path to open. It wasn't punishment. It was protection. It was alignment. It was life saying, you can't stay here anymore. There's something else waiting. And once I stopped resisting, once I opened to the idea that maybe life knew better than my plans, the next chapter began to unfold in ways I could never have imagined. Sudden endings are not failures. They're not signs that you're going the wrong way. They're signs that your old self is being released so the new self can breathe. And if this is happening in your life right now, if something is leaving, if someone is drifting, if a chapter is ending, don't rush to patch it together. Don't chase after what's trying to walk away. Instead, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, what if this is clearing the space I've been too afraid to make? And here's what happens next, and it's one of the most important truths you'll ever learn on this journey. If you hold on too tightly to what's leaving, if you try to force something that has already completed its purpose, life will begin to repeat the lesson. It will show you the same message again, but from a different angle, with different people, in different situations, until you're ready to understand it. And that brings us to the next sign, one that reveals itself through patterns, loops, and echoes that follow you until you finally step into the wisdom they're trying to offer. When life starts taking away what no longer serves you, and you still try to cling to the pieces, something very predictable and very sacred begins to happen. Though most people only see the surface of it and mistake it for bad luck or personal failure. But I want you to hear this in the deepest part of yourself. When you ignore the signs that ask you to grow, life doesn't give up on you. It simply becomes clearer. It begins repeating the lesson, not out of cruelty, but out of love, out of a kind of divine persistence that refuses to let you stay small. And this is where we arrive at one of the most powerful signals that your old self is dying, the repetition of spiritual patterns. This is the stage where you find yourself meeting the same kind of person again and again, even though you thought you left that behavior behind years ago. It's where you keep walking into the same emotional walls, no matter how many times you change your surroundings. It's where different faces bring out the same wound. It's where new jobs trigger old doubts. It's where fresh relationships stir up familiar fears. And if you don't understand what's happening, you might start to think that you're cursed, or that you're doing something wrong, or that the entire world is somehow conspiring to keep you stuck. But what's really happening is simpler and far more beautiful. Life is showing you the exact place inside yourself that is ready to transform. Think of it like being in school. You cannot move on from a subject until you've learned its lesson. And life works in the same way. If you don't understand your own worth, you'll keep meeting people who don't value you. If you don't understand your own voice, you'll keep landing in situations where you feel silenced. If you don't heal the wounds around love, you'll enter relationships that mirror those wounds until you finally see them clearly. And once you do, once the lesson becomes conscious, the pattern dissolves almost instantly because you finally learned what it came to teach you. Let me put it another way. Imagine a song playing on a loop. It doesn't matter how many rooms you walk into, you'll hear the same melody until you decide to change it. The song isn't trying to annoy you, it's trying to get your attention. It's saying, listen, understand, grow. And once you do, the whole soundtrack of your life changes. New experiences appear, new people enter, new possibilities unfold, all because you finally heard the message behind the repetition. I've lived this myself more times than I can count. There were seasons in my life where I kept running into the same emotional walls, facing the same inner fears, attracting the same challenges, even though everything around me looked different. And every time I found myself in that loop, I would ask, Why is this happening again? And the answer, once I was willing to hear it, was always the same. Because I hadn't yet understood the deeper invitation the pattern was offering. The moment I did, the loop ended. The new life began. Now this is important, so stay with me. When you start seeing patterns in your life, it's not a sign that you're regressing, it's a sign that something inside you is preparing to evolve. It's the old self giving you one last chance to understand its limits before it steps aside. And when you finally recognize what the pattern is trying to reveal, something inside you shifts. You see the pattern for what it is, a teacher. And that awareness becomes the doorway to the next stage of your transformation. Because once the lesson becomes clear, once you stop blaming the world and start listening to your soul, a quiet clarity begins to rise inside you. It's subtle at first, almost like a whisper. But that whisper soon becomes unmistakable. It's your inner knowing emerging. And it marks the moment when the old self loses its power over you and the new self begins to rise. And that's exactly where we're headed next. As we reach the end of this message, I want you to take a gentle breath and feel everything we've uncovered settling into your heart. Because if you've been sensing changes in your life, if things have been shifting, falling away, repeating, breaking open, or calling you towards something new, I want you to know that none of it has been random. You are standing in the doorway between who you used to be and who you're becoming, and right before your old self dies, life always speaks in signs. It shows you the tension inside your soul, the endings that arrive without warning, the patterns that return until you learn their meaning, the sudden clarity that rises like light in a dark room, and the deep desire for a new life that refuses to stay quiet. These are not signs of collapse. These are signs of birth. These are the early movements of the new you, the real you, breaking through the shell of who you once believed you had to be. And I want you to understand something with every part of your being. Your old self isn't dying to punish you. It's dying because it can no longer carry the truth of who you are now. It served its purpose. It brought you here. And now it's stepping aside so something bigger, something freer, something more aligned with your soul can rise. You don't need to fear this process. You don't need to rush it. You only need to listen, to trust, to honor what you're feeling inside. Because every shift, every ending, every uncomfortable pull is guiding you toward the next version of your life, a version you are absolutely ready for, even if your mind hasn't caught up yet. So take this moment and say quietly within yourself, I am ready to release who I've been. I am ready to honor who I'm becoming. I am ready to trust the changes unfolding in me. I am ready for the new life rising inside me. Feel those words. Let them move through you. Let them soften the fear and strengthen the part of you that already knows this transformation is not only necessary, it's sacred. You are not losing yourself. You are outgrowing yourself. You are stepping into a higher expression of the soul you've carried all along. Most people live each day expecting something to go wrong, and that expectation shapes their whole reality. But something shifts the moment you flip that inner script and begin acting as if everything is unfolding for your good. Suddenly, the world feels lighter. Opportunities show up, peace returns, and your life starts moving again. In this talk, I'm going to show you how to live with a sense of quiet certainty, even when your life feels uncertain. I'll show you how to stop feeding doubt and start feeding faith. I'll help you understand why acting as if everything is working out isn't pretending it's aligning yourself with a deeper truth. And when you learn how to live from that place, you begin to feel calmer, clearer, and more in control of your inner world. By the end of this time together, you'll have simple practices that shift your energy, soften your fear, and help you walk through life with more peace and purpose. Maybe you've spent years waiting for the right sign, the perfect moment, the external proof that things are going to get better. Maybe you've been holding on tight, trying to control everything, trying to predict every twist in the road, and maybe you've grown tired of living from that tense place inside you. Most people are. Most people never learned that doubt is not a signal of truth, it's simply an old habit. Something you picked up long before you knew you had another way to live. And acting as if everything is working out is not denial. It's not make-believe. It's choosing to live from your highest self instead of your fear. It's stepping into the life you want before it fully forms on the outside. And it's one of the most powerful shifts you can make. So today, I want to walk with you through this idea in a very simple and very real way. We'll talk about why this shift matters, how it changes the energy you bring into each moment, and how life responds when you stop carrying all that doubt and begin carrying a quiet inner confidence instead. We'll explore the places where doubt sneaks into your daily life, how it shapes your choices without you even noticing, and how quickly everything can change when you act from faith instead of fear. We'll open a few doors together, doors that lead to a calmer mind, a stronger inner world, and a deeper connection with the part of you that already knows the truth. Everything is always working out. And by the end of this journey, you'll understand not only how to act as if, but how to live as if. Peaceful, grounded, supported, and aligned. Here's something I've discovered again and again. Something that may feel surprising at first, but becomes unmistakably clear once you begin to live from it. Your assumptions are shaping your reality in every moment. Not your wishes, not your hopes, not your passing thoughts, but the assumptions you return to over and over, the ones you carry without even realizing it, the ones that sit beneath your words and beneath your actions and beneath your nervous system's response to the world. And if you look closely, gently, without judgment, you'll see that your assumptions have been guiding your steps for years. When you assume life is hard, everything feels heavy. When you assume people can't be trusted, you walk through the world guarded. When you assume things don't work out for you, you find proof everywhere. But when you assume life is supporting you, when you assume something larger is guiding you, when you assume that everything is working out, even when you cannot yet see how that assumption becomes like a quiet wind behind your back, redirecting your steps, softening your fear, expanding your awareness, and opening you to solutions that were invisible before. Acting as if everything is working out is not pretending. It is aligning yourself with the truth that your inner state determines how you experience the outer world. Your life bends toward your assumptions the way a tree bends toward sunlight. The direction is subtle at first, almost invisible, but over time, the entire shape of your life leans in the direction of what you hold most often inside yourself. This is because assumption influences your emotions, and your emotions influence your behavior, and your behavior influences your outcomes, and your outcomes reinforce your assumptions. It becomes a cycle, a loop, a rhythm, and most of the time, people aren't even aware that they're living inside a cycle they unknowingly created. They wonder why their life keeps repeating itself, but they never examine the quiet expectations that sit beneath their choices. I used to tell a simple story when speaking about this, a story that always made the point clearer than any definition could. Imagine tossing a tennis ball toward a target. If, deep down, you assume you're going to miss, your posture shifts, your confidence drops, your movement hesitates, and the ball goes exactly where that assumption aimed it off course. But if you throw the ball with the assumption that you will hit the target, your body aligns without effort. Your movement is fluid. Your energy is focused. The same arm, the same ball, the same throw, but two completely different outcomes shaped by one invisible factor, your assumption. Life works the same way. The energy you bring into every action determines what you allow yourself to experience. Or think of a thermostat on the wall of your home. Doesn't wait to see what the temperature is going to be. It sets the temperature. It creates the environment. Your assumptions are the thermostat of your inner life. When you assume things will work out, you create an emotional environment that supports creativity, peace, clarity, and inspired action. When you assume things will fall apart, you create an environment filled with tension, doubt, hesitation, and fear. And the world responds to the atmosphere you bring with you. This is why acting as if everything is working out changes your entire experience. It's not about pretending things are perfect. It's about choosing an inner environment that strengthens you instead of weakening you. When you hold the assumption that life is unfolding in your favor, doubt loses its grip. Challenges feel lighter. Solutions appear more quickly. You begin to trust your steps. You begin to notice opportunities you once overlooked. And slowly, gently, your life rearranges itself around the assumptions you've chosen to embody. And stay with me, because once you understand how these assumptions shape your reality, you'll begin to see something even more powerful, the inner atmosphere that surrounds those assumptions, the subtle emotional climate you carry with you from moment to moment. And that is the next doorway we're about to walk through. And now that we've opened the door to this idea that your assumptions silently shape the direction of your life, I want to take you even deeper into the space where those assumptions live, because it isn't enough to simply understand that your beliefs influence your reality. To live this truth, you have to feel the atmosphere you carry within you, the subtle emotional climate that surrounds your thoughts, your decisions, and your expectations. And here's something most people never realize. You're not just thinking your way through life, you're broadcasting your way through it. You're moving through your days inside an inner atmosphere that colors everything you see, everything you interpret, everything you allow yourself to receive. What I'm about to share may sound soft, but it's one of the strongest forces shaping your entire experience. Your inner atmosphere determines what you notice, what you filter out, what you attract, and what you push away. When that atmosphere is filled with doubt, insecurity, or fear, you're not doing anything wrong. You're simply living inside a narrow emotional field. Your perception tightens. Your awareness dimmers. You start to feel like life is closing in on you. Opportunities that would normally reveal themselves remain invisible. Paths that could open feel blocked, not because life is against you, but because your atmosphere is clouded by the weight you're carrying. Think of a fogged windshield on a cold morning. The world outside hasn't changed. The road is still there. The path is still there. The direction is still available. But because your visibility is obstructed, everything feels uncertain. Everything feels risky. Everything feels harder than it really is. When the fog lifts, you don't get a new road, you simply see the one that was there all along. Your inner atmosphere works the same way. When fear fogs your awareness, even simple steps feel overwhelming. But when you change the atmosphere, when you clear the inner fog, the path reveals itself with ease. And here's the beautiful part. Just like you can defog a windshield by shifting the temperature inside the car, you can shift your inner atmosphere by changing the emotional setting you hold within yourself. When you begin to act as if everything is working out, your inner climate warms, your nervous system relaxes, your energy expands. Confidence starts to emerge naturally, not because everything outside of you has changed, but because your relationship to life has shifted. And when your awareness expands, you begin to notice solutions that were hidden before. You start to see opportunities instead of obstacles. You feel drawn to the right people, the right conversations, the right choices, almost as if life itself is guiding you gently from within. And let me tell you something from years of watching my own life and the lives of thousands of others. Confidence is not arrogance. Confidence is clarity. Confidence is the atmosphere that allows your truth to rise without being drowned by fear. When your inner atmosphere is confident, you move differently. You breathe differently. You walk into rooms differently. You speak differently. You meet challenges with a sense of groundedness rather than panic. This doesn't mean you ignore difficulties. It means you meet them with a steadiness that keeps your perception open, your creativity alive, and your connection to possibility intact. But when fear becomes the atmosphere you live in, the world contracts. Fear acts like a filter. It narrows your sight. It keeps you scanning for what might go wrong instead of noticing what is already going right. It blocks intuition, silences inspiration, and turns simple choices into complicated ones. Fear doesn't destroy your path, it only hides it. And when you live inside that fear for too long, you begin to believe the limited version of life it shows you. Not because it's true, but because fear has become the lens you're looking through. This is why acting as if everything is working out is not about pretending. It's about choosing a new inner atmosphere, one that reflects the truth of your power instead of the memory of your fear. When you shift your atmosphere to calm awareness, everything changes. Calm awareness invites clarity. Calm awareness reveals options. Calm awareness allows intuition to rise. Calm awareness helps you make decisions from your center rather than your panic. Calm awareness is the foundation for everything you want to create. And once you understand how your assumptions and your inner atmosphere work together, the next layer becomes clear: the emotional signature you bring into your life. The feeling tone that radiates from you and gently shapes the experiences that come back to you. And that is where we're headed next. And now that we've stepped into this understanding of your inner atmosphere, now that you see how the emotional climate you carry quietly shapes the way life feels and responds to you, we can move into an even more intimate layer of creation, the emotional signature you bring into every moment. This emotional signature is not loud, it's not dramatic, it's not something you announce or something you even speak aloud. It's the subtle feeling that moves with you, the tone of your inner world, the quiet frequency that radiates from your presence long before you ever say a single word. And what I've discovered, what so many spiritual teachings have pointed to across generations, is that this emotional signature has the power to shape your experiences, your relationships, and your opportunities in ways your mind could never strategize. You see, the feelings you embody today become the experiences you attract tomorrow. Not because life is keeping score or responding to your worthiness, but because emotion is a magnet. Emotion is the energetic handshake you offer the world. When your emotional signature is heavy, tense, fearful, or rushed, the world around you begins to mirror that back to you. You feel pulled into situations that match the inner turbulence you haven't yet released. You notice problems first, obstacles first, limitations first. Your nervous system stays on alert, and everything feels harder than it needs to be, not because life is against you, but because your emotional signature is calling in experiences that match the tone you're vibrating from. But when your emotional signature is aligned with trust, with gratitude, with calm, with quiet confidence, the entire fabric of your experience begins to rearrange itself. You start to notice beauty in places you used to overlook. You find solutions where you once found only confusion. You feel supported in moments that used to overwhelm you. You attract people who reflect your steadiness rather than your fear. And all of this happens not through force, not through effort, not through trying to be positive, but through embodying the emotion that aligns with the life you want to create. This is why acting as if everything is working out is so powerful. It shifts your emotional signature before the external evidence arrives. It teaches your nervous system to feel safe before the world gives you a reason. It invites your heart to open even when fear tells you to close. It rewires your emotional patterns so you become a match for solutions instead of problems, for peace instead of tension, for clarity instead of confusion. When you walk through your day carrying the emotional signature of someone who trusts their path, people respond differently to you. They feel your openness. They feel your warmth. They feel your steadiness. Even strangers sense it without knowing why, and they react to you from a place of safety rather than guardedness. I've always loved using simple images to make these truths more accessible. And one that fits perfectly here is the warm room effect. Imagine walking into a room that's been heated on a cold day. You don't need a thermometer to know the temperature has shifted. You feel it instantly. Your shoulders relax, your breath deepens, your body softens. The warmth holds you without explanation. Your emotional signature works the same way. People feel it. Life feels it. Even you feel it, long before you can name it. And when your inner world radiates warmth instead of tension, life begins to respond. Another simple example is something as ordinary as asking someone for directions. If you approach them with frustration or panic, they pick up on that energy and the interaction becomes tense. But if you approach with a smile, with a sense of groundedness, with a calm openness, the entire exchange shifts. The information flows. The connection feels lighter, and once again, your emotional signature shaped the outcome. This emotional signature becomes even more powerful when gratitude enters the picture. Not the forced kind, not the kind people try to practice when they're panicked, but the natural gratitude that rises when you trust that life is moving in your favor. Gratitude amplifies positive momentum. Gratitude expands what you're open to receiving. Gratitude softens doubt and quiets fear. It shifts the inner tone you carry through the world, and the world responds to that tone with synchronicities, with opportunities, with moments of unexpected clarity that reassure you that you're exactly where you need to be. And the more you embody this emotional signature of trust, gratitude, and quiet confidence, the more your life begins to reflect those qualities back to you. It becomes a self-renewing loop. Your inner state shapes your experiences, and your experiences reinforce your inner state. And once you begin to feel this happening in your life, you start to understand something even deeper, that your expectations are not passive ideas, they are active forces shaping the reality you're stepping into. And that brings us directly into the next part of our journey together. Now that you've begun to see how your emotional signature quietly shapes the quality of your experience, we can step naturally into the next revelation on this journey, one that expands everything we've been building toward. Because once you understand that your internal atmosphere influences your perception and that your emotional state radiates outward and invites matching experiences, it becomes almost impossible not to notice the next truth. Life responds directly to your dominant expectations. Not your passing thoughts, not your momentary hopes, but the deep, often unspoken assumptions you hold about yourself, about the world, and about what is possible for you. These expectations become the lens through which you interpret every event, and without even realizing it, they create a self-fulfilling future. This next part might seem simple, but it carries profound power. When you expect ease, you notice solutions more quickly. You pick up on subtle cues. You feel more resourceful. Your mind relaxes enough to see pathways you would have walked right past when locked in fear. And when you expect things to go wrong, when you brace yourself for disappointment, your awareness narrows, your nervous system tightens. You miss the small openings and opportunities that were right in front of you, not because they disappeared, but because your expectation filtered them out before they ever reached your awareness. Life does not give you what you deserve. Life gives you what you expect, or more accurately, what your expectations allow you to perceive. Imagine walking into a room filled with hundreds of objects, but wearing glasses that only let you see the color red. Even though the room contains every color imaginable, you will see only red. Opportunities could be all around you, but your expectation creates the filter that determines what your mind can detect. This is why two people can live in the same circumstances, face the same challenges, walk the same path, and yet experience life completely differently, because expectation alters perception, and perception alters reality. There's a simple analogy that captures this beautifully. If you buy a red car, you suddenly begin seeing red cars everywhere. Not because the world suddenly produced more of them, but because your mind is now attuned to notice them. This is often called the red car effect. Your attention follows your expectation. Your expectation shapes your experience, and your experience reinforces your expectation. This is where acting as if becomes not just powerful, but transformative. When you begin assuming that things will work out, even before you see evidence, you shift your dominant expectation, and your perception begins searching for proof of that expectation. You start to notice moments of alignment. You feel drawn toward the right people. You interpret challenges differently. You begin to see detours as redirections rather than failures. Your entire inner world becomes calibrated toward what is possible rather than what is threatening. And over time, your life begins to match the expectation you've chosen. I want you to imagine for a moment someone walking across a narrow beam. If they assume they will fall, their body tightens, their breath shortens, their movement becomes shaky, and the likelihood of falling increases dramatically. But if they assume they will cross easily, their body relaxes, their movement becomes fluid, and they arrive safely. The beam didn't change. The physics didn't change. What changed was the expectation that dictated how they showed up. Life is the same. The world doesn't always change in response to you, but your relationship to the world changes dramatically when your expectations shift. And here's the beautiful truth. Acting as if refocuses your attention in a way that reshapes what you see, how you move, and what you attract. It is a shift from looking for reasons to fear into looking for reasons to trust. And once you begin to trust, even a little fear loosens its grip. The mind opens, the heart softens, the spirit awakens. And you begin to experience the subtle, powerful truth that life is not happening to you, life is responding to you. As your expectations rise to meet the truth of your strength, something else begins to happen, something that forms the foundation of true transformation. You begin to step into a new identity. Not the identity created by fear or limitation, but the identity of someone who trusts their path, someone who believes in their future, someone who is no longer waiting to see the world change before they change themselves. And that shift leads us directly into the final part of this section, the emergence of the you who already knows everything is working out. And now, as all these threads